A state is an entity that exists for the protection and flourishing of its citizens. If it didn't protect and promote the flourishing of its citizens, it would be useless. As a society, the people that make up a state, we have certain obligations to our fellow man and women, not just negative responsibilities like do not kill, but also positive ones to promote the welfare and human rights of our fellow man. My basic question is why you don't view healthcare as one of those inalienable rights that's necessary for citizens to thrive, such as defense, the police force, or firefighters. After all, health is necessary for our very existence. It is no less necessary for us to be citizens than the loss of life from foreign invaders or a robber.
So I understand the question.
This is by the way, this is a moral argument, not a practical argument.
Right. No, I've got you. And it's a good question. I mean, so two things. One, you and I have a different view of rights. I don't believe that there is such a thing as a quote-unquote positive right. I believe that you have inalienable rights from government and from other human beings. And what I mean by that is to be free of other human beings. So I have a right not to be murdered by you, but I don't have a right to take your money in order to feed myself. Okay, that's the difference in positive right and negative. So
that's called the profit over people. Like, I'm a utilitarian, so I believe in maximizing human flourishing.
Okay, so there's a lot of problems with utilitarianism as a political theory, as opposed to sort of a rights-based Lockean political theory. One of the big problems with utilitarianism is you actually have to define your terms.
Well, Mill was a utilitarian.
I know, and I agree with Mill's basic concept of that the government should only regulate externalities, which is sort of a Mill perspective, but which you don't, because actually regulating healthcare is not regulating externalities, it's regulating somebody's own care for themselves. But the problem with utilitarianism as a theory is that if it benefits the collective, you can crush the rights of the individual. Utilitarianism, including vision of individual rights, is one thing, but utilitarianism without that view, which is what you're talking about, you end up inevitably with the collective destroying the individual. So, the difference I would pose between firefighting and police is that the police are there. It's the job of the state to protect you from other people. That is the job of the state, or national defense, right? That's the job of the state to do that. I don't think that it's the state's job to provide, to make you flourish. It is your job to make you flourish in the absence of curbing other people's rights. That's where we have a fundamental disagreement, and that's also why here's a quick explanation of healthcare, and I can do this in, I promise, like a minute and a half. You ready? So Dan McLaughlin of National Review put this the best way. There are three things you can have about healthcare. You can have universality, affordability, or quality. You can only have two of those three. There's no system that provides all three. And there's certainly no system so if you want universality and affordability, it's going to be crappy quality. That's nationalized healthcare. If you want universality and quality, then you have to bankrupt the country and spend an inordinate amount of money on your healthcare system. And if you want what I want, which is affordability and quality, then you have open competition, but it means that some people are going to have to rely on a community of people around them, but not through government. And this is the great gap, I think, is that it used to be, Tocqueville talks about this, that we all used to be members of communities, religious, social groups, and we all used to take care of each other outside of government. As government grew, we withdrew. And so as Robert Putnam says, the sociologist in Bowling Alone, we've all become sort of these people who live in our houses and we don't talk to our neighbors. If we have a problem, we go to the government. Instead of going, like, if I have a problem, I go first to my family, and then beyond that, I go to my synagogue. And that used to be the model, and that should be the model.
But we're signing a social contract, so we are responsible for taxes.
We're responsible for taxes that pay for things of which we have an equal share of withdrawal, and to protect us from, I mean, they call it a non-excludable, non-competitive good. You have the ability to pay taxes, but you get back out of it. Having me pay taxes for your failure to buy health insurance is you stealing from me, and having you tell my wife, who's a doctor, that she must care for you no matter what price you choose to pay her is involuntary servitude.
Two questions related to policy, not like Trump or this election. The first one is, you mentioned about healthcare in your debate with Sally Kohn.
Yes.
So talking about Obamacare. Now the Republicans finally had a proposal that is in the House that is to replace Obamacare, but we have other like two different lines that the Republicans are like pursuing. So HSAs, tax credits, or just going back to the standards that we had before 2009. Which is your preference? Like what of the three lines, or you have a separate choice? And the second question is, why don't we learn with the things that are going wrong with Latin America? Because like in Latin America, all the populism that Trump is proposing for trade wars were implemented in Venezuela, in Brazil, in Argentina, the default on the debt in Argentina,
Right.
Brazil with inflation, the countries are screwed now.
Right. Okay, so I'll start with the Latin America question. The reason that America has a problem learning from other countries is because we have this concept in the United States where people don't know what American exceptionalism means. This is my problem with Trump. It's my problem with Obama. It's my problem with Hillary. American exceptionalism means that the principles upon which the country were founded are exceptional. It doesn't mean that you're exceptional because you were born here. It doesn't mean that you get to implement the same policies that Latin America implements, but somehow it has a different ending because you were born in Burbank, California, instead of being born in Caracas. That is nonsense. And what I think people have fallen into, and you hear it from Obama all the time. Obama says this all the time. Well, we're America, and we're America, and America's always going to be great. No matter what, we're all going to be great. The arc of history bends toward justice. That kind of bullshit. And when he says that stuff, people tend to resonate to it because they think that we're all going to be great, but it ain't going to be great if you try the same ideas. But that really is, when I say that Trump and there's this whole wing, it's not just Trump, there's this whole jingoistic aspect to a lot of Americans. That's not me ripping on patriotism. Patriotism means something. It means you stand up for the founding principles, not that just the borders matter only, because what's inside the borders matters more to me than where you draw it. So that's my critique of why people don't take the lessons. I mean, listen, forget Latin America, we had this lesson in Cuba, in the Soviet Union. We have a lesson of California for the rest of the country. I mean, this place is turning into a hellhole, right? And everybody's standing around going, well, if you do the same thing California did, maybe it'll be different. So that's number one. As far as the Obamacare argument, my optimistic vision of what's going to happen with Obamacare is that I think Obamacare is actually going to be the death of government-run medicine. Because it'll take a little while, but it'll happen. Because what's going to happen is the reimbursement rates from Medicare and Medicaid are going to be so low, doctors are going to stop accepting it. And instead, they're going to start accepting cash. And the insurance companies are going to be bankrupted, which is sad because people do need catastrophic health insurance coverage. But people are going to start doing their normal hospital visits in cash. And so what's going to end up happening, my wife's a doctor, and what's going to end up happening is that people are going to start accepting cash, and then there will actually be profit incentives for people to become doctors again. Because what's happening right now is that there's a tremendous undersupply of doctors, less people going into the profession, lots of people dropping out, too much paperwork. Talk to any doctor, they'll tell you this is true. The only way to make healthcare better in America is to create more supply, as I said, and the only way to do that is to create more profit incentive. You want to create more supply of anything, you have to create more profit incentive. If you're going to make money off of something, you do it more often, right? So I think Obamacare is going to leave a lot of people in the lurch because the costs are going to be high and the insurance companies are going to go bankrupt. But in the end, you'll end up with a cash system, and then we'll devolve back to a private system. It's been happening, by the way, in Canada and in Britain and in Israel. Is this black market system that is completely, it's like a shadow system that exists. Like if you have cancer, you don't go to the public healthcare system in Canada. You find a black market system and you go find somebody who actually knows what they're doing.